Hey guys, this is Dan from learningcameras.com, and I just want to show you this new product we just got in. It's called the Radian. It's by Alpine Labs. And basically what it is it allows you, it's especially nice for people who like time lapses. This is going to allow you to take time lapses with motion. So every time you take a picture, instead of it being a straight shot and then you might be able to crop in after, or something like that, it's going to allow you to basically get that rotation. And so if you take a look at their website, it's by Alpine Labs. It's pretty amazing, some of the stuff that you can do with it. So I just got it in, and I've tested it out just enough to make sure that it's working for me, and it works fairly well. So we got to wait for some good times to get some time lapses going. So the only downside of time lapses is that it takes a little bit of time to get it going. You got to stand there with the camera for generally, you know, you're looking at least 15 to 30 minutes or something overnight, possibly in an area that your camera won't get stolen or anything like that. So it does have a couple of nice things on it. It comes with this case, and it does come with these L brackets, and these L brackets allow you to mount them either in the horizontal orientation, or you can get a vertical. And one thing that's nice is you can actually pair two of these up together to get both horizontal rotation on your axis or the vertical rotation on the axis. So, you know, this stuff has been around for a little while, but it's always been extremely expensive. I'd say that most of the systems that I played with are in excess of $600–800, some of them even going into the thousands. There's a lot of them that'll do this linear, basically on a track or on a slider, and then they have the ability to do the same thing as the Radian is doing. The big difference here is that the Radian is very inexpensive comparatively. You're looking at about $250 for this unit right now, and we'll see what they do. And I'll have a link for the website so you guys can check it out. And then later when we do the full review, you can really see if you're going to want it. But let's take a look around the device. It's got a 1/4-20 tap right here, and then an external thread 1/4-20 as well. So what this is nice for is you can actually put this right under your camera and in between your tripod and the camera, and hook it onto the tripod mount if you want to. There's a couple different ways you could do this. You can get a little adapter screw if you want to put this directly on the tripod with a 3/8 screw thread on that. But it has a great battery life. Battery is built into it. It's just USB powered. And the interface, because there's no real buttons on this, the interface is actually powered through your phone, through the app that they have, and it's allowed for both Android and iOS, so either system is going to work for you right now. And there's just an on-off switch, and that's really your only switch. So all of your control is going to be through the app, and you can actually download the app if you want to without owning the actual device. So you can download the app and check it out and see some of the different options that you have for this device. But when you first turn it on, it's going to basically go to a home position, and then it's going to start to execute whatever program that you have downloaded on it. And you can change those programs. You can change how frequently you want it to index, the amount of rotations, things like that. So it's really nice. So far, so good. And it basically has a controller here, a cable that goes into your camera port. And let's see, I've got the 70 here. So the 7D has a port on it. It's actually the same port on the 7D as the 5D Mark III. And it's just one of the ports in there that allows you to do your remote triggering. And it uses that same port on that, and will allow you to control the camera directly from this. So you don't need any separate controllers. It doesn't matter if you have the ability to do time lapses built into your camera. You basically just get that sync cable, and it'll send that into your camera, and you can use that for it. Now you can also use a separate controller if you want to, but basically it's all, the functionality is built into the app if you would like to use that, and I'd recommend it. So far so good with it. So I mean, like I said, it worked just fine for me. The controllers that you have there are basically going out to your camera, another cable going out to your phone. It does not actually hook into the USB end of your phone, so it actually hooks through the 3.5mm headphone port. Now, I actually prefer that in many ways because that is universal on all phones, so you don't need a separate cable if you're doing it with an iOS device versus maybe an Android device. Basically all of them that have, you don't have to look and see if they have a micro USB port, for example. It will work with all of those. Also tablets. No problem using it on my Nexus 7 tablet, and work just fine using that to program the software. So that's it for the actual device. And like I said, it's, it's pretty nice to be able to do something like this on the cheap. Some of the limitations that I found are it's not extremely fast. So you're going to want to do it in something that you're taking time lapses over a longer period of time. So you're not going to be able to shoot, every second or two and do any quick pans with this. It's also, it's not going to give you a smooth motion. I was hoping for a smooth motion because I saw some uses for this with video. It's really not going to be for that. It's going to be almost strictly for time lapses. And then as long as you're doing something that's a little slower, you should be fine. Now, one initial thing that I have to work out with my camera is that on the Canon 7D, which can shoot 7-8 frames a second, if I was to give the Radian to trigger the camera more than once every 2 seconds, I had an issue. It would take the first 1 to 3 pictures, and then it seemed to get hung up somewhere. So I wasn't able to do a really quick time lapse that way. I had to make it take a picture every 2 seconds or less, but I do have a sync cable that'll allow me to do time lapses individually. So I'm going to go ahead and try hooking that into the camera and have that going instead of powering it through the Radian, and see if that makes any difference on that. That was really the biggest thing that affected me so far. Other than that, I guess when you first sync it into the device, there's some confusion a little bit when you're first getting started. It starts right away. Sometimes it doesn't start right away. Once I had to power it off and power it back on. There's no communication on the device, so it's really hard to tell where it's getting hung up or if I just don't know how to use it yet. So, once again, I just got this in and just started using it now, so kind of beginners working out how to use it and how best to put this into my workflow. But basically, for $250, you really can't beat the type of functionality that you're going to get through this, and then knowing that you can basically just use all of your existing either phones or tablets or anything like that to power the device. It really makes something very neat. I plan on putting this on, on like a secondary camera up high at a reception and taking some time lapses over the course of reception. I do more photography than video, but that makes a great thing to add into a slideshow, a time lapse. Even for photographers, it makes a great thing to add into any slideshow that you're doing, for example, of a wedding or anything like that, or if you're shooting an event and doing a basically any kind of slideshow or moving thing afterwards. If you do video for an event, time lapses are great, and adding something like this is just going to be that little extra touch to your videos that's going to separate you apart from some of the other ones. So Radian did send me 2 cables, so I'm going to be able to try this both with the 5D Mark III, the 7D, and then I'm really excited we have the Canon 7DD coming in any day now, so I'm going to be able to try that with that as well and see some of the functionality that it might be able to produce with something like this. Now, one of the things I love about time lapses, anyone who's ever shot DSLR video knows that there's severe limitations in low light, there's severe limitations in dynamic range. Those are just issues that cameras like the 7D or even higher end cameras like the 5D Mark III I'm using to film this with, they really just suffer in those areas just a little bit. But if you shoot stills with RAW, you can really open up those shadows. You get tons of room in highlight shadows, lots of areas to clean up in noise. Images can look great on the 5D Mark III, for example, up to 6400 ISO in my opinion. A little bit of noise reduction will clean those right up. So knowing that we can shoot these on a RAW, especially nice if you shoot Canon. If you shoot Canon and it has the ability to do a small RAW file, and so it's not quite the size of a full-size 22 or 24 megapixel file. If you have Nikon, it has to record a RAW file at the full size. That's the only downside, is that your file sizes will get larger if you're shooting on something like the D7100 or D600, where you're shooting 24 megapixel RAW files. The Canon has the ability to shoot at a much lower resolution, but still maintaining the RAW file, so we have all that adjustment in post should you want to. You can adjust white balance after the fact, all kinds of nice things that we get to enjoy as photographers that if you're shooting video with DSLRs, you do not get to enjoy because they don't shoot raw video natively without hacking into the system. Or right now there's a raw hack for the 5D3 that's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to trying it out. So things like that. So it's really nice even for videographers to be able to shoot this, because it gives you the ability to shoot raw basically, except you have to do it in a time lapse. That's the only limitation. But you're going to be able to shoot raw video at super high quality resolutions. You can be shooting, these cameras shoot 5K. So you could produce 4K video, no problem, and stream that out to high quality monitors. You can be cropping after the fact, just all kinds of stuff you don't get to enjoy traditionally as a DSLR video shooter inside this. So stay tuned for the full review. I know that was a pretty long opening for something like that, but definitely subscribe and check it out, and we'll have that really soon. And hopefully we can get some nice scenes with some cool time lapses and really put this through its paces.